Welcome back to CryptosRus. I'm George. We're all George. So, what is going on with Bitcoin and markets overall? Well, looking at the US market, not looking very good right now, very red. Dow, Nasdaq, S&P, everything down. But you know what's not down? Bitcoin is actually up today. Bitcoin is up to 68.3, and Ethereum is still closing in at 3,800. And there's good reason for these things. This came out this morning. I saw this pending home sales slump to the lowest level since the start of pandemic. That means we have gone back basically 4 years. The economy in the US just not great right now. We know that things have slowed down quite a lot. We've got GDP numbers that showed that, and we had other economic data that has come out that shows that retail investors just not spending as much as before. Even Walmart and Target, they said so themselves during their recent quarterly discussion. So this is not a surprise, okay, that the economy is slowing down now. However, what makes it worse is the fact that we still have elevated levels of inflation, right? And that is what Powell is trying to solve. How do you jumpstart the economy yet keep inflation low or drop inflation? It's almost impossible. There's really nothing that he can do. But I think he has to make a decision. What's worse? Um, to let the economy fall further or let inflation rise. I think that's the reason why Bitcoin and Ether are actually up today, despite the US market going down, because I think ultimately everyone thinks that, hey, those rate cuts that we've been hearing about, they will come sooner than later, even though there are a lot of estimates and speculation about how the first one's not going to be happening in the summer. I actually do think maybe end of the summer, maybe mid, like July, August, we could see that very first rate cut because having the U.S. economy falter and get weaker is going to be much worse, right? So I think that is going to happen, which is why actually Bitcoin is showing some strength today, which is really, really, really good. Now, as for elevated levels of inflation, yeah, still high. I mean, we're still 3 point something percent. Fed Chair Powell wants to get down to 2%. At this point in time, I think that's just not possible. I think he has to, again, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't know what he's going to do. But basically, I think he's going to cut rates to spur up the economy, and then inflation will go higher ultimately, and there's just nothing he can do about that. But according to this article from Cointelegraph, some people think that the CPI needs to print 3.3% or go lower before Bitcoin goes higher. I just don't think that's the case. Remember, inflation artificially inflates basically all prices. So when it comes to assets like Bitcoin, it's actually a good thing. Elevated levels of inflation actually helps Bitcoin go higher. Now, as for your buying power of your fiat, of course, that goes down and down and down. And we know that's going to zero eventually, right? But yeah, this is a tricky situation for Powell. And you know what? Quite frankly, it's not just a US thing. All countries are dealing with it, but it's like, in the US, we're just in a really weird position right now because of everything that the Fed and Treasury and our government did 4 years ago. Now we're in this really sticky situation. But ultimately, that's why. That's why most of us are in Bitcoin because we want to opt out of all the shenanigans that has been going on, right? And that's why so many people are also buying Bitcoin ETFs too, because they want that exposure to Bitcoin. Because I'm sure many understand, maybe not all, but many understand, especially these big institutions and companies. They know that their cash, a lot of them are just flush with cash and they don't know what to do with it. They know that's just disappearing right in front of their eyes too. It's not just retail. It happens to businesses that have tens of millions or hundreds of billions sitting on the sideline, right? That is why if you look at something like BlackRock's IBIT ETF, it's the fastest ETF ever to hit 20 billion in assets. Think about that. Think about it. Look at compared to the other one prior, took 985 days. With iBit, only 137 days. This is not a coincidence. This is with everything that's going on for BlackRock's fund to get this strong this fast is not a coincidence. Okay, there are so many institutions and companies that recognize that inflation is out of control, the endless spending is out of control, and there's really nothing that the Fed can do. Ultimately, they could play their games with quantitative easing and tightening, but ultimately, it's a house of cards that will fall eventually. Okay, which is why Bitcoin is the answer. Bitcoin has always been the answer. It's just some people are learning about it later than others. I've shown charts like this before. If you look at how much Bitcoin is being held for over 10 years, we're talking about over 50 something percent, 60%. 7 years, 40%, 5 years, around that, right? Um, but basically, the number of Bitcoin being held just continues to go up and up and up and up because long-term holders know this. The new retail investors that are coming in know this. Now institutions and companies know this, and it's just a matter of time. Bitcoin goes higher because there's just not enough to go around. There really isn't. There will only be 21 million ever. And even if you count all the millionaires on the planet, there's more than 21 million. Not even every millionaire on the planet can buy a single Bitcoin if they wanted to. Just think about that. Okay. Bitcoin is scarce and it hedges against inflation because nothing outperforms Bitcoin over the long haul. It's quite simple, quite simple. And this is what we're looking like from a chart perspective. You guys know that, hey, we've been stuck in this sideways movement for quite some time. It's just a matter of time before we break out. So stay strong. Now, there's a couple other things that are quite interesting. A lot of people been paying attention to this. Fetch, Singularity, Ocean, they're set to merge. Now they actually have official date, June 13th. That's coming up in 2 weeks. So FET, which is Fetch AI, will be named ASI, and the two other protocols go away. This could be it's like a super AI company that's being formed. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to that. I've heard of this for quite some time, and it's finally happening. And with AI being so hot, I think this project is probably going to lead. Could actually dominate too, not just lead, but dominate the crypto space. So that's fantastic. Other news, what I saw PayPal, their PYUSD, which is not that popular, but is expanding to Solana, right? PayPal is absolutely huge as a fintech company. I'm still not sold on PayPal, but still, they are in the crypto space, and they have their own stablecoin. And Solana is just only getting stronger by the day, and that's awesome. And then lastly, I saw this too. Singapore's largest bank, DBS, actually holds 650 million in ETH. So it's kind of funny, Now all these all these reportings about ETH whales or ETH holders are coming out. Why? Because of all the hype around Ethereum ETF. This is the reason why, we've gotten it and why so many ask for it, because there are a lot of hidden Ethereum whales out there, right? So overall, guys, today's actually not bad. We're seeing some movement in Bitcoin with Ether, with some of the other crypto projects out there, despite the US having a horrible, horrible day. Just remember, Bitcoin is the way. So don't fade Bitcoin.